I'm Rebecca Taylor, starting your 9 with late-breaking news on a wildfire in Pinal County. The KOLD fire has exploded in size since sparking yesterday afternoon. So far, it's burned 1,000 acres and is threatening dozens of homes and other structures. Multiple areas are under evacuation orders. The fire is burning about 2 miles east of the Cedar fire that sparked near the town of Oracle. Many people in the area have been placed on go status, so they have been told to evacuate. Others are in set status, which means that they need to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. For now, everyone continues to hope for the best, but are preparing for the worst. The KOLD fire is being managed by multiple land management agencies and local departments. More than 100 officials are on the ground fighting the flames, and several aircrafts dropped retardant throughout the day yesterday. Fire crews worked overnight to build containment lines and address hot spots along the fire's perimeter. Now, we want to remind you the area is under temporary flight restrictions. This will allow firefighters to do more drops, allowing them to fight the fire from the air. You're also asked to avoid the area for safety. Taking a look at some of the evacuation statuses, Oracle residents who live in zones 5 and 13 through 19 are under go status, which means if you haven't left already, you need to evacuate now. You can see that area highlighted in red. Zones 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 through 12 are in set status, which means they need to be ready to leave as soon as the order goes through. The same goes for anyone living in San Manuel. Those zones are highlighted in yellow. The Southern Arizona chapter of the American Red Cross has opened a shelter in Oro Valley. It's located at Canyon del Oro High School near Linda Vista Boulevard and Oracle Road. The Red Cross says pets are welcome. Another shelter is open at the Mammoth Community Center in Mammoth, Arizona. The center is near Highway 77 and 5th Street. This shelter is not affiliated with the Red Cross. If you are evacuating, don't forget medications, charging cords, important documents, personal and hygiene products, pillows, blankets, and snacks. We have late-breaking news as we take a live look out to St. Peter's Basilica to start your 9. Pope Francis died earlier this morning, one day after the traditional Easter blessing, according to the Vatican. Cardinal Kevin Farrell says, quote, "The Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the home of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and of his church." His passing comes roughly a month after the Pope battled pneumonia at Gemelli Hospital for more than 5 weeks. In his final public appearance, Pope Francis wished the people in attendance at Vatican City a happy Easter and gave a brief blessing. His final message, delivered by an archbishop, was an appeal for peace in Ukraine and the Middle East, with a call to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and for the remaining Israeli hostages there to be released. The first Latin American pontiff died at the age of 88. So far, his cause of death has not been released. We received a statement from the Diocese of Tucson. It says in part, quote, "It is with profound sadness, yet with Easter joy, that we received word this morning of the death of Pope Francis. He believed wholeheartedly in the Lord's promise that we will rise with him on the last day. As Francis approached the Lord, there was no doubt he was received with open arms and heard the Lord's words, 'Welcome, good and faithful servant.'" The Diocese of Tucson will also be hosting a special service at noon. This will be at St. Augustine Cathedral off of South Stone Avenue. Carson Courier joins us at the late-breaking desk with reaction from world leaders on the Pope's passing, including Vice President J.D. Vance, who met with the Pope yesterday. Carson?
Yeah, Rebecca. Well, during Easter Sunday, Pope Francis had a brief private meeting with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. A Vatican statement said they met for a few minutes to, quote, "exchange Easter greetings." They shared opinions on migrants, refugees, and prisoners, topics on which Vance and the Pope disagreed. Before the pontiff was hospitalized in February, he rebuked the Trump administration's immigration policy. As of this morning, the vice president posted to social media, remembering his time spent with Pope Francis. It reads in part, quote, "I was happy to see him yesterday, even though he was obviously very ill. May God rest his soul." President Donald Trump posted to Truth Social, saying, quote, "Rest in peace, Pope Francis. May God bless him and all who loved him." And former President Joe Biden mourned the loss of the pontiff in a statement this morning, saying in part, quote, "Pope Francis will be remembered as one of the most consequential leaders of our time, and I am better for having known him." Now, with the Pope Francis passing, many are wondering what exactly comes next. Joining us at the Live Center is 13 News anchor Madison Smith. So Madison, can you tell us some of these rituals? What are they? When exactly are they happening? What can we expect?
Yeah, Carson, the first ritual has already taken place as the Pope's Cameron Lango, Irish-American Cardinal Kevin Farrell, has confirmed his death. So it is likely that they have already sealed the Pope's private apartment and started funeral preparations. Now that Cameron Lango and 3 assistants will decide when the Pope's coffin will be taken into St. Peter's Basilica for public viewing. Mourning rites last 9 days, with the date of the funeral and burial to be decided by the cardinals. Traditionally, the funeral would be held 4 to 6 days after the death in St. Peter's Square, but Francis has chosen to be buried in Rome's St. Mary Major Basilica instead, and that could delay services. A new pope will not be chosen for weeks, as officials will not start deliberations at the Vatican Sistine Chapel until about 15 to 20 days after the death. The cardinals under the age of 80 can take part in the secret ballot and are confined to the Vatican until the election. The world will know a new pope has been elected when white smoke pours out of the chapel's chimney. Soon after, the dean of the College of Cardinals will step onto the central balcony of the basilica to announce the new pope, who will give the crowd his blessing. Rebecca?
All right, Madison, thank you. And we'll continue covering this for you throughout the day. Stay with 13 News on air, online, and on our 13 News mobile app. Right now, we are working to get more information on the deadly mid-air collision at Marana Regional Airport. The airport remains closed as the investigation continues. 13 News reporter J.D. Wallace is live at the airport with how operations there have increased and plans are in place to build a tower. J.D.?
Well, right now, Rebecca, the FAA and the NTSB are continuing their investigation here. The runways remain closed to any sort of landing or departing traffic. Meanwhile, the Marana Public Works Department was able to speak with us not about the investigation, but with the town's plans for a tower at this airport, which they've been working on for a few years now. Right now, while this is an uncontrolled airfield, that means that aircraft do not have to actually speak with each other, even though it's encouraged to communicate. A tower would require there to be two-way communication established. Now, yesterday morning, 2 planes collided, a Cessna 172 and a Landcare aircraft, which is a kit aircraft. The Marana is untowered, and pilots self-report their location to each other on a common traffic frequency, but they don't have to do that. Now, that crash killed both people aboard the Landcare. A tower would likely require communication between the aircraft and with the ground, and the town can't comment on the investigation right now, but they say that traffic has increased at this airport.
Increased annual operations. Just the numbers were going up. More and more activity. Marana's growing. We're booming. The Dove Mountain area brings in a lot of air traffic. You know, a lot of celebrities and such fly in here. Corporate jets, more corporate jet action. So just increased activity at the airport.
Coming up on 13 News Live at 3, we'll take a closer look at how operations have increased over the years here at the airport. Live at Marana Regional Airport, J.D. Wallace, 13 News.
J.D., thank you for the update. This is the third crash that has happened near the regional airports. The first was back in April of 2000 when a U.S. Marine Corps Osprey helicopter crashed. 19 service members died. And in March 2002, an elite military parachuting team from Fort Bragg called the Golden Knights were involved in a plane crash. An Army pilot died after the team collided with a civilian plane during a practice jump. This also comes more than a week after a jet crashed at the Scottsdale Municipal Airport. An investigation is still underway, but so far, investigators say part of the landing gear failed and hit another jet. One of 2 pilots died and 3 others were hurt. Motley Crue singer Vince Neil owns the plane, but he was not on board. According to the NTSB, despite the many crashes and incidents being reported, there was a record low number of airplane incidents nationwide last month, and the number of deadly crashes last month is tied for the safest January on record since 2022. In addition, there have been fewer deaths on commercial airlines over the last 15 years than any other 15-year stretch. This morning, Oro Valley police are investigating how a car fire started last night. This video was taken by 13 News viewer Jackson Young. It happened outside of an apartment complex near Oracle and McGee Roads. Fire crews and officers responded to the scene and were able to put the fire out. Details are still limited at this time, and we'll continue to follow this for you and update you when we learn more. Fire crews have mostly contained or put out the two fires that we have been covering over the last week. The one on the top right is the flood fire in Pinal County. At last report, it was 90% contained and burned roughly 4,400 acres. At the bottom is the vein fire in Sonoita. Crews say it burned 1,300 acres and was 90% contained in its last report. However, officials say that these fires could cause problems when we move outside of wildfire season. The National Weather Service says that we are expected to be on the drier side, but the rain in the short term could help lessen fire concerns. But with the rain will come wind, and that is always a concern for firefighters. Right now, a man accused of shooting a Pima County Sheriff's deputy during a days-long crime spree is expected in court. Gabriel Altamirano is facing multiple charges, including attempted first-degree murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and domestic violence. He could also face attempted kidnapping charges for an incident before he was arrested. Back in August, PCSD responded after receiving a domestic violence call near Camino de Oeste and Valencia Road. According to PCSD, deputies spotted a driver that refused to stop and eventually crashed. Deputies say Altamirano and another man were inside that car and both ran away. PCSD says Altamirano shot Deputy Agustin Gonzalez during the chase. The other man in the car was arrested, but Altamirano got away. Roughly 5 days later, deputies got a call about a possible kidnapping near Irvington and Mission Roads. Altamirano was identified as the suspect and taken into custody. We'll let you know what comes out of the courtroom when we learn more. The real estate market is still feeling the effects of the COVID pandemic. Although it's slowed down, buyers are still competing for a limited supply of housing. The data site Stacker states that the average home value in the U.S. was more than $350,000 in February. That's a little more than 2% higher than it was a year ago. According to Stacker, the housing market in Elgin, Arizona went up by about $7,200 compared to last year. Homes in Hereford increased $11,000, Sonoita more than $15,000. And home prices in Tortolita increased by nearly $17,000, putting it in the top 10 50 cities Stacker researched in the state. Happening today, one of 5 men accused of shooting and killing a 16-year-old in 2022 is expected in court. Paul Rodriguez is scheduled to appear in court at 1. According to court documents, Rodriguez, along with 4 other suspects, were set to meet 16-year-old James Sanchez at Catalina Park to sell THC vape pens. A police report shows Sanchez was shot from the exchange. He died from his injuries at the hospital. The other 4 suspects have already been sentenced. Joseph Nolan is facing life in prison for being the, quote, brains of the operation. He was convicted of first-degree murder and other charges. His brother, Drake, got 14 years in prison for manslaughter. Zachary Connor, who prosecutors believe was the shooter, was sentenced to 16 years. Richard Miller accepted a plea deal for aggravated robbery. He was given 5 years probation and was released from jail.
Southern Arizona continues to honor the legacy and the impact of the late Congressman Raul Grijalva. Coming up in a little bit, we're going to break down his impact and service here in the community, as well as what the Southern Arizona community is doing to remember his impact here.
It's a meaningful career that gives you opportunity to promote, and I'm a prime example of that.
13 News got the chance to speak with Tucson's new interim fire chief, Sharon McDonough. We'll have more from the first woman picked to lead the department in an exclusive interview. Plus, the American Society of Civil Engineers released its 2025 infrastructure report card. Find out how Arizona is faring compared to the rest of the country. Coming up, the Tucson Police Department is continuing its efforts to recruit new officers to the force. Find out how you can join, if interested, when we return. Coming up, we are a few weeks away from the general election, but some people are still waiting on their early voting ballots. Find out why when we come back from break. Coming up, Tucson police are investigating a deadly double shooting that happened last night. What we know so far when we come back. Coming up, if you're getting your holiday shopping done online, it's important to be prepared for anyone who might steal your package. When we come back, we'll tell you the best way to avoid porch pirates. Coming up, as the temperature keeps rising, it's important to know how to beat the heat if you're hiking, what you should know before you hit the trails when we come back. Coming up, we are following the latest on a second hatchet attack in Tucson. What police are saying led up to the attack when we come back. Coming up, wildland firefighters could get an increase in their pay very soon. Hear from Arizona's governor on plans to get that done when we come back.